Here we are in a field of legumes. Now you probably have seen these are soybeans. We grow a lot of these around here, and this is one of the most commonly grown legumes, aside from alfalfa. And I just want to talk a little bit about the common characteristics with legumes. Now most legumes, like peas and beans, most of them are going to be vining. Soybeans are a little unusual because they do make more of a bush structure, but that's also because we've been modifying them a bit. So when we look at a legume leaf, a leaf is going to be one blade, and that's what's always kind of confusing, is we have to be able to see this whole structure as one leaf blade, but it's divided into three little segments. This whole structure will be called the petiole, and this will be connected onto the stem. And one of the cool things that soybeans and a lot of legumes will do with these leaves is during the day, they're going to be holding their leaves up to the sun, and then at night you will see them start to droop. So that's one of the neat things that these plants will do. Scientists are still trying to figure out why they do that. We don't know yet. All of these soybeans are done flowering, and that's another common characteristic that we see with most legumes, is that their flowers are similar. They've got that fused set of petals on the top and fused petals down below, and they require insect pollination. The pollinator that most frequently will pollinate the legumes will be the bee, and so when we're growing soybeans, we are deeply dependent upon the bees in order to pollinate the flower and eventually make the fruit. Now this is a follicle fruit. It is dehiscent. It will split open at maturity. It'll split along two seams, and it will reveal the seeds inside. The seeds consist of two cotyledons, and those cotyledons are going to be jam-packed with protein, and more importantly, since we are dealing with beans, they will also be jam-packed with lipids. Now the thing to note about soybeans and a lot of our legumes is that the lipids are unsaturated. So a lipid consists of two parts. We have a glycerol group and a fatty acid chain. The fatty acid chain is a series of hydrogens and carbons bonded together. When we call a lipid unsaturated, we're actually referring to that fatty acid chain. Two carbons have double bonded to each other, and this causes the fatty acid chain to be kinked. When that fatty acid chain is kinked, it makes the lipid, it makes that oil or fat liquid, and they can move around each other. The other thing that's going to be important from our point of view in lab is that double bond between the carbon, that kink in the fatty acid chain, that's where oxygen is going to bind and make our oil a drying oil. That's where iodine is going to bind, and our unsaturated oil will clear the iodine. It'll make it look like the iodine disappears. So the reason why we're doing this, why we're getting down to this level of detail and talking about those lipids, is because the lipids inside these seeds have lots of energy in the bonds, and our bodies treat unsaturated fatty acid chains much better. We can handle those easier than we can those saturated fatty acid chains that are linear and straight and packed really tightly together. So unsaturated lipids, like in soybean oil, are healthier for us. So our legumes have lots of lipids and proteins in the seed. We've got common characteristics in the leaves and the flowers, the shape of the fruit, and the fact that the fruit is going to split open. The other really important thing about our legumes is what's happening down in the soil. So in the roots have the ability to form the relationship with rhizobia bacteria. Our roots will secrete nod factor into the soil, and essentially that's like a perfume saying, hey, bacteria, come here. If there are any rhizobia bacteria in the soil, those bacteria will move towards the roots. The roots will reach out, kind of corral the bacteria close, and then make a big bump, make a root nodule for the bacteria to live in. The rhizobia bacteria will grab the nitrogen gas, turn it into a form that our legumes can eat. The legumes will be using some of the sugars that they made from photosynthesis and giving those to the rhizobia bacteria. So we get this symbiotic relationship between the bacteria and the legume. One of the things that a farmer can do is they can take all of this shoot biomass and till it under, and that essentially becomes green manure. By tilling the biomass, tilling all the shoots into the soil, they will then replenish the soil with nutrients. So the next year the farmer can come in and plant corn or plant wheat, one of the grasses, and then those grasses would use the nitrogen from the legumes, from that relationship with the bacteria and the legumes. So it's a way to decrease the use of fertilizer and to make sure that you're getting the most productivity out of your plants with that rotational farming. So we do talk about the nitrogen cycle. Most of the nitrogen on this planet is floating around out here in the atmosphere, and it is the bacteria being able to grab it and put it into a form that plants can eat. Then we come along and we eat the plants, or the animals eat the plants to get their nitrogen. So we see this sort of balance in the nitrogen cycle, except for when humans get involved. Because when humans get involved, of course, we put fertilizer on the field, nitrogen fertilizer on the field. Most of that nitrogen fertilizer is actually going to end up in the water supply. It's going to end up in our creeks and streams and ponds, our surface waters, where it's going to feed algae. Those algae will die, and when they die, the decomposers will use all the oxygen in the waterway when they're eating up all of the dead algae. The other thing that can happen, especially in places that have really sandy soil, like that area in Wisconsin where a lot of potatoes are being grown, the nitrogen fertilizer will seep down into the groundwater. People will drink that groundwater, use that groundwater to make formula for their babies, and the nitrogen will interfere with the body's ability to grab oxygen. And so there's something in Wisconsin called the blue baby syndrome. That's where the babies have been exposed to the nitrogen that is seeped into the aquifer, and they essentially are not getting a lot of oxygen because the nitrogen is interfering with that. So that's why we're studying the nitrogen cycle, because we need to know not only how it is in balance when humans aren't involved, but what we as humans are doing to knock everything out of balance. So when you're going through the lecture slides, make sure you focus in on the examples of different legumes, those common characteristics, why these are so crucial and so important. With our grasses, the seeds have lots of proteins. With our legumes, the seeds have lots of lipids. And in our next unit, the starchy staples have lots of starches. Proteins, lipids, and carbohydrates. Those are the fundamental part of just about everything that we eat. Ultimately, we're going to be getting to nutrition, why we eat what we eat, tying together these first three chapters that we have covered in Plants and Society. If you have any questions, email me or drop by Zoom office hours.